property in charity? He said no. I asked half. He said no. Then he added 1/3, and even 1/3 is much. You'd better leave your inheritors wealthy rather than leaving them poor, begging others. You will get a reward for whatever you spend for Allah's sake, even for what you put in your wife's mouth. I said, O Allah's apostle, will I be left alone after my companions have gone? He said, if you are left behind, whatever good deeds you will do will upgrade you and raise you high. And perhaps you will have a long life so that some people will be benefited by you while others will be harmed by you. O Allah, complete the emigration of my companions and do not turn them renegades. But Allah's apostle felt sorry for poor Sa'd bin Khawla as he died in Mecca. But Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas lived long after the Prophet, Pbuh, Volume 2, Book 23, number 384, narrated by Abdullah. The Prophet said, he who slaps the cheeks, tears the clothes, and follows the tradition of the days of ignorance is not from us. Volume 2, Book 23, number 385, narrated by Abdullah. The Prophet said, he who slaps the cheeks, tears the clothes, and follows the traditions of the days of ignorance is not from us. Volume 2, Book 23, number 386, narrated by Aisha. When the Prophet got the news of the death of Ibn Haritha Jafar and Ibn Rawaha, he sat down and looked sad, and I was looking at him through the chink of the door. A man came and told him about the crying of the women of Jafar. The Prophet ordered him to forbid them. The man went and came back saying that he had told them, but they did not listen to him. The Prophet, Pbuh, said, forbid them. So again he went and came back for the third time and said, O Allah's apostle, by Allah they did not listen to us at all. Aisha added, Allah's apostle ordered him to go and put dust in their mouths. I said to that man, may Allah stick your nose in the dust, that is humiliate you. You could neither persuade the women to fulfill the order of Allah's apostle, nor did you relieve Allah's apostle from fatigue. Volume 2, Book 23, number 387, narrated by Anas. When the reciters of Quran were martyred, Allah's apostle recited Qunut for 1 month, and I never saw him, that is Allah's apostle, so sad as he was on that day. Volume 2, Book 23, number 388, narrated by Anas bin Malik. One of the sons of Abu Talha became sick and died, and Abu Talha at that time was not at home. When his wife saw that he was dead, she prepared him, washed and shrouded him, and placed him somewhere in the house. When Abu Talha came, he asked, how is the boy? She said, the child is quiet, and I hope he is in peace. Abu Talha thought that she had spoken the truth. Abu Talha passed the night and in the morning took a bath, and when he intended to go out, she told him that his son had died. Abu Talha offered the morning prayer with the Prophet and informed the Prophet of what happened to them. Allah's apostle said, may Allah bless you concerning your night, that is, may Allah bless you with good offspring. Sufyan said, one of the Ansar said, they, that is Abu Talha and his wife, had 9 sons, and all of them became reciters of the Quran by heart. Volume 2, Book 23, number 389, narrated by Anas. The Prophet said, the real patience is at the first stroke of a calamity. Volume 2, Book 23, number 390, narrated by Anas bin Malik. We went with Allah's apostle, Pbuh, to the blacksmith Abu Saif, and he was the husband of the wet nurse of Ibrahim, the son of the Prophet. Allah's apostle took Ibrahim and kissed him and smelled him, and later we entered Abu Saif's house, and at that time Ibrahim was in his last breaths, and the eyes of Allah's apostle, Pbuh, started shedding tears. Abdurrahman bin Auf said, O Allah's apostle, even you are weeping. He said, O Ibn Auf, this is mercy. Then he wept more and said, the eyes are shedding tears and the heart is grieved, and we will not say except what pleases our Lord, O Ibrahim. Indeed we are grieved by your separation. Volume 2, Book 23, number 391, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Sa'd bin Ubadah became sick, and the Prophet along with Abdurrahman bin Auf, Sa'd bin Abi Waqqas and Abdullah bin Masud visited him to inquire about his health. When he came to him, he found him surrounded by his household, and he asked, has he died? They said, no, O Allah's apostle. The Prophet wept, And when the people saw the weeping of Allah's apostle, Pbuh, they all wept. He said, "Will you listen? Allah does not punish for shedding tears, nor for the grief of the heart, but He punishes or bestows His mercy because of this." He pointed to his tongue and added, "The deceased is punished for the wailing of his relatives over him." Umar used to beat with a stick and throw stones and put dust over the faces of those who used to wail over the dead. Volume 2, Book 23, number 392, narrated by Aisha. When the news of the martyrdom of Zayd bin Haritha, Jafar, and Abdullah bin Rawaha came, the Prophet sat down looking sad, and I was looking through the chink of the door. A man came and said, "O Allah's apostle, the women of Jafar," and then he mentioned their crying. The Prophet, Pbuh, ordered him to stop them from crying. The man went and came back and said, "I tried to stop them, but they disobeyed." The Prophet, Pbuh, ordered him for the second time to forbid them. He went again and came back and said, "They did not listen to me or us." The sub-narrator, Muhammad bin Haushab, is in doubt as to which is right. Aisha added, "The Prophet said, 'Put dust in their mouths.' I said to that man, 'May Allah stick your nose in the dust, that is, humiliate you.' By Allah, you could not stop the women from crying to fulfill the order. Besides, you did not relieve Allah's apostle from fatigue." Volume 2, Book 23, number 393, narrated by Atiyah. At the time of giving the Pledge of Allegiance to the Prophet, one of the conditions was that we would not wail, but it was not fulfilled except by 5 women, and they are Sulaim, al-Ala, the daughter of Abi Sabra, the wife of Muad, and 2 other women, or the daughter of Abi Sabra, and the wife of Muad, and another woman. Volume 2, Book 23, number 394, narrated by Amir bin Rabia. The Prophet said, "Whenever you see a funeral procession, stand up till the procession goes ahead of you." Al-Humaydi added, "Till the coffin leaves you behind or is put down." Volume 2, Book 23, number 395, narrated by Amir bin Rabia. The Prophet said, "If any one of you see a funeral procession and he is not going along with it, then he should stand and remain standing till he gets behind it, or it leaves him behind, or the coffin is put down before it goes ahead of him." Volume 2, Book 23, number 396, narrated by Sayyid al-Makburi, that his father said, "While we were accompanying a funeral procession, Abu Hurairah got hold of the hand of Marwan, and they sat down before the coffin was put down. Then Abu Sa'id came and took hold of Marwan's hand and said, 'Get up. By Allah, no doubt this, that is Abu Hurairah, knows that the Prophet forbade us to do that.' Abu Hurairah said, 'He, Abu Sa'id, has spoken the truth.'" Volume 2, Book 23, number 397, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. The Prophet said, "When you see a funeral procession, you should stand up, and whoever accompanies it should not sit till the coffin is put down." Volume 2, Book 23, number 398, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. A funeral procession passed in front of us, and the Prophet stood up, and we too stood up. We said, "O Allah's apostle, this is the funeral procession of a Jew." He said, "Whenever you see a funeral procession, you should stand up." Volume 2, Book 23, number 399. Narrated by Abdur Rahman bin Abi Layla Sal bin Hunayf and Qais bin Saad, were sitting in the city of Al-Qadisiyah. A funeral procession passed in front of them, and they stood up. They were told that funeral procession was of one of the inhabitants of the land that is of a non-believer, under the protection of Muslims. They said, "A funeral procession passed in front of the Prophet, and he stood up. When he was told that it was the coffin of a Jew, he said, 'Is it not a living being, soul?'" Volume 2, Book 23, number 400, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, Allah's apostle, said, "When the funeral is ready and the men carry it on their shoulders, if the deceased was righteous, it will say, 'Present me,' hurriedly, and if he was not righteous, it will say, 'Woe to it, me.' Where are they taking it? Me. Its voice is heard by everything except man, and if he heard it, he would fall unconscious." Volume 2, Book 23, number 401, narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, Hurry up with the dead body, for if it was righteous, you are forwarding it to welfare, and if it was otherwise, then you are putting off an evil thing down your necks. Volume 2, Book 23, number 402, narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. The Prophet said, "When a funeral is ready and the men carry the deceased on their necks, shoulders, if it was pious, then it will say, 'Present me quickly,' and if it was not pious, then it will say, 'Woe to it, me. Where are they taking it, me?' And its voice is heard by everything except mankind, and if he heard it, he would fall unconscious." Volume 2, Book 23, number 403, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah, Allah's apostle, offered the funeral prayer for An-Najashi, and I was in the second or third row. Volume 2, Book 23, number 404, narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Prophet, PBUH, informed his companions about the death of An-Najashi, and then he went ahead to lead the prayer, and the people lined up behind him in rows, and he said, "For Takbir." Volume 2, Book 23, number 405, narrated by Ash-Shaybani. Ash-Shabi said, "I was informed by a man who had seen the Prophet going to a grave that was separate from the other graves, and he aligned the people in rows and said, 'For Takbir.' I said, 'O Abu Amr, who narrated that to you?' He said, 'Ibn Abbas.'" Volume 2, Book 23, number 406, narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. The Prophet said, "Today a pious man from Ethiopia, that is An-Najashi, has expired, come on to offer the funeral prayer." Jabir said, "We lined up in rows, and after that the Prophet led the prayer and we were in rows." Jabir added, "I was in the second row." Volume 2, Book 23, number 407, narrated by Ibn Abbas, Allah's apostle, passed by a grave of a deceased who had been buried at night. He said, "When was this deceased buried?" The people said, "Yesterday." He said, "Why did you not inform me?" They said, "We buried him when it was dark, and so we disliked to wake you up." He stood up and we lined up behind him. Ibn Abbas said, "I was one of them, and the Prophet offered the funeral prayer." Volume 2, Book 23, number 408, narrated by Ash-Shaybani. Ash-Shabi said, "Somebody who passed along with your Prophet, P.B.U.H., by a grave that was separate from the other graves, informed me, saying, 'The Prophet led us in the prayer, and we aligned behind him.' We said, 'O Abu Amr, who told you this narration?' He replied, 'Ibn Abbas.'" Volume 2, Book 23, number 409, narrated by Nafi ibn Umar, was told that Abu Hurairah said, "Whoever accompanies the funeral procession will have a reward equal to 1 kirat." Ibn Umar said, "Abu Hurairah talks of a too enormous reward." Aisha attested Abu Hurairah's narration and said, "I heard Allah's apostle saying like that." Ibn Umar said, "We have lost numerous kirats." Volume 2, Book 23, number 410, narrated by Abu Hurairah. That Allah's apostle, PBUH, said, "Whoever attends the funeral procession till he offers the funeral prayer for it, will get a reward equal to 1 kirat, and whoever accompanies it till burial, will get a reward equal to 2 kirats. It was asked, "What are 2 kirats?" He replied, "Like 2 huge mountains." Volume 2, Book 23, number 411, narrated by Amir ibn Abbas, who was at that time a boy, said, "Allah's apostle came to a grave, and the people said, 'He or she was buried yesterday.'" Ibn Abbas added, "We aligned behind the Prophet, and he led the funeral prayer of the deceased." Volume 2, Book 23, number 412, narrated by Abu Hurairah. Allah's apostle informed about the news of the death of An-Najash, king of Ethiopia, on the day he expired. He said, "Ask Allah's forgiveness for your brother." Narrated Abu Hurairah. The Prophet made them align in rows at the Musalla and said, "For Takbir." Volume 2, Book 23, number 413, narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. The Jew brought to the Prophet a man and a woman from amongst them who have committed adultery, illegal sexual intercourse. He ordered both of them to be stoned to death near the place of offering the funeral prayers beside the mosque. Volume 2, Book 23, number 414, narrated by Urwa Aisha.